began, planted tanks seemed like an astounding mystery, a thing that didn't make a lot of sense. I knew that people were gardening indoors in a box filled with water. Didn't really know how I was going to get to some of my tanks to start looking like the tanks I'd seen in photographs. You know, at the time, there just wasn't that many videos of Planet Aquariums. There really wasn't that many people actually making any kind of instructional videos or assistance that could be played on a TV or played on a computer or anything like that. So I began researching and going down a lot of weird roads, honestly, from using kitty litter as a substrate, just as an example, using organic dirt as a substrate, filtered, not filtered, substitutes for CO2, CO2 injected, non-CO2 injected, all sorts of different lights. I mean, I tried pretty much every light I could get my hands on to see what it would do to grow plants, whether it was high-pressure sodium bulbs or fluorescent bulbs or, obviously LEDs and all sorts of things. Eventually, I got to a point where I started to just understand how some things were going to work, how some things weren't going to work. It's difficult to kind of just explain in a quick, short video, but the one thing that I can explain in a video like this would be, this is the bit that most people don't show you. If you look through a glossy magazine, or if you see somebody's Instagram post or whatnot, you're not going to see somebody taking the time to clean and detail their tank with a toothbrush. One of the handiest aquascaping tools out there is just a 99-cent toothbrush, which I probably got 3 or 4 of them for 99 cents at the dollar store. It's one of the most important tools in order to help keep plants clean and algae removed from plants that otherwise in nature just sort of live in harmony with algae and stuff like that. When it comes down to the lens of a camera, though, the aesthetic, of course, needs to be algae-free. In nature, all these things just live in harmony, so most of the plants and things like that aren't, on a mission to remove algae or, it is going to eventually outcompete algae. Most plants, having so many, a much more advanced cellular structure is going to be able to deal with hardships, or if there's a shortage of certain things, they'll be able to survive longer with stored energy and, a root system and whatnot. But, if you do look at landscape photography as a perfect example, you could look at a picture of a lake from far away, and it's a beautiful picture of a lake landscape or whatnot. But if you actually go all the way down and jump in the water of that lake, you'll find all sorts of strange little algae, detritus, things breaking down, and a lot going on in nature that a landscape picture doesn't show you. And I think that's what's portrayed more often than not these days. If you were to, you end up basically getting the magazine cover is what most people are going to show you. And how do I get to the point of being able to make my tanks look like a magazine cover? it's work like this. This is really, if I was to say that there was a secret, I guess this is the secret. It's just a lot of work cleaning it up, making it look real nice. And I do get the added benefit of sort of, leapfrogging the steps that nature normally takes. Eventually, these plants will win out over the algae, like I said earlier, but I'm able to kind of leapfrog certain periods of, maturing a tank to get it to a point by essentially like removing certain things like hair algae and stuff like that would otherwise just essentially make us wait longer in order to get there. But patience is really key in doing this type of stuff. It's not necessarily an everyday kind of thing, but at least once a week, get in there and basically help out your plants. You're going to give them a little helping hand. Oftentimes people want to add critters, whether it be a mono shrimp or autosynclus or stuff like that, to help out with algae removal and stuff. But as you can see in this video right here, I basically spent 15 minutes cleaning my tank. I pulled out most of the algae that actually was in here in that 15-minute period with a toothbrush. How many autosynclus would it take to do that? A lot. It would take a lot of autosynclus to pull that off. And yes, admittedly, there are certain things that I will add to a tank that will help with algae and things like that, but typically that'd be something like snails. And this tank is no exception. I've got Malaysian trumpet snails that live in the substrate, and we have a lot of ram's horn snails in here. Two types of snails that will just kind of ebb and flow as time goes on with the maturity of this tank, where they'll be breeding and kind of coming and going, and it really won't be affected necessarily like something like a fish. A fish is going to, it's going to have a lot of things to deal with in an aquarium that isn't set up for it. So that's why I don't necessarily go that route. A mono shrimp they'd fall in that same category for me, that, they need brackish water in order to breed and those kinds of things. And I feel like you're putting too much pressure on a critter that could just otherwise be having a enjoyable stay in a tank that actually is set up for it. Now, this tank right here does have shrimp inhabitants in it, and it is set up specifically for those shrimp. We have Caridina shrimp that are in here. The shadow pandas and the blue bolts are in here doing their thing. And those will probably come up in a later video, but I just wanted to hit on a note that there are shrimp in here doing some cleaning and stuff, but I am specifically feeding them. So feeding those shrimp aren't going to spend a whole ton of time cleaning algae and stuff like that. They're actually going to spend their time feeding on the food that is in here. So that means it comes down to me to remove a lot of the algae and things like that will just naturally grow in the system. Now, there are some people out there that think you could add algicides and things like that, which you can. I don't go a chemical path, and the reason for that is that you're treating the symptom and not the disease. Now, and the reason that I say that is that algae is going to exist whether you like it or not. You're not going to eradicate it from, the earth, first of all, and you're also not going to eradicate it from your system, even if you've added a ton of algicides and stuff like that. It will still be in there, and it will never be gone because it's something that just exists on our planet. So I prefer to go this mechanical route because I feel like I'm not adding anything that could potentially be detrimental to the system, and I'm also able to continue to observe and see what's coming up next, because typically after removing a lot of hair algae for a little while, this kind of goes on for probably 3 weeks or something like that, we'll start to see probably some blackbeard algae, maybe a little green spot algae and stuff like that. As we move past those, then we'll start to see a couple of different algae later down the road. But as time goes on, those become less and less and less until plants are they're basically, the plants start to run out of food, and then algae will get an opportunity to kind of come back again. So I don't want to completely eradicate the algae, because it's one of the best indicators of what is going on in the aquarium or what's not going on in the aquarium. If there's enough fertilizer for the plants and stuff like that, they'll continue to grow properly, and I won't see algae later down the line. But once this tank is completely filled in with plants and stuff, it's actually going to take a fair bit of fertilizer in order to maintain this system, and I'm going to want to keep an eye on it without having to constantly test water and stuff like that. And algae is one of the main components of being able to keep track of what's going on. Hopefully that was a couple of good tips for you. I hope everybody's having a fantastic day out there. I guess subscribe, I guess hit the like button, I guess share this with somebody, and I will talk with you guys later. Yes, later.